And although Tom Mitchell is amassing the disposals... I was just
about to mention him.
He's amassing the disposals. He's doing an extremely great job. But you looked at, I think, Jaeger O'Meara and both Tom Mitchell, I think their games against Adelaide, they had huge amounts of disposals, almost 70 between them, yet they were almost ineffective for most of the part.
O'Meara's it's his knee issue. O'Meara's best of his knee issue. He's probably self-confidence to kick. Maybe self-confidence after getting smashed by Gold Coast.
That's right.
As well.
It's about giving him time. I think if you look at the talent he was in the first year at the Gold Coast, we were talking about, like, have we ever seen a better debut from a player ever? And I think you've got to give someone like that time to perform. They're asking a high role from him because Sam Mitchell, Jordan Lewis have left. He has taken that void coming off years of being out. That's a big ask. And
besides Luke Hodge, who would you look to in the midfield as far as someone who would probably be a mentor to them?
Isaac Smith.
The
two vice captains, Liam Shield and Isaac Smith, they really haven't.
He has to stand up. I mean, he's going to be he's the next senior player.
Like I said, my biggest issue, and I've said this on Sports Test, is the fact that they got in all these players and gave out all their draft picks for this promised land for a premiership. And the thing is, they were trying to do that again this year. They wanted Stephen May from the Gold Coast, and they wanted Rory Lair from Adelaide. Yeah. But now they don't have that. They don't have that promised land. And Stephen May, who's just been appointed captain, is doubtful he's going to leave. I know appointed captain Fife should not leave a club. Fife. Not naming Fife names, Fife.
But we look at players as well who have just completely fallen off the mantle.
Josh Gibson.
Josh Gibson has just... I've never seen him so shaky with the ball.
He was so much better when he was a third man.
I agree.
Yeah.
You had Brian Lake there and you had a couple more, strong defenders, and he was just able to take that role where he'd be just drifting in, spoiling, marking. He's great contested mark.
Yeah, he was Mr. Spoiler in every sense of the name. He just... With that third man up, that's such a great one to utilise because taking the second or first best forward, he doesn't have that leeway because he has to actually man up rather than coming across and spoiling. And I think that's affected Hawthorn as well, the ability to rebound from the back 50.
And I saw some footage. They had about 3 defenders and 3 of the Geelong forwards. Usually what Hawthorn would do, they'd have a man already in the goal square waiting to get that spoil. And it's a common knowledge in AFL, in any kind of form of football, you've got to knock that ball forward. You can't knock it back unless you've got a man there. They knocked it back. Players ran on, kicked the goal. Very similar to what Cam McCarthy did. As defenders, I don't know where the message has gone. There's all this zoning at the moment in the AFL, and I think zoning is good to a degree if you've got it set up well. St Kilda tried to do it the first 2 rounds. If you stuff up your zoning, you've got all these questions, all these voids in the forward line, and it absolutely makes no sense. When you're watching it on TV, it's one of the worst things to see. It's like, how is it so simple for a player to just waltz through the 50 and have no, opponent on him? It's crazy.
Talking about how easy it was, Geelong kicked 11 goals straight. No team's ever done that in a quarter.
Oh, yeah.
That was unbelievable.
I'm not just saying that. It was Geelong's biggest win over the Hawks since round 10, 1949.
Gee, remember that game? Remember that round?
I don't remember that.
Beauty.
I think when you're coming off, how many grand final wins have they had in the last, 4 in the last decade?
They won 3 in a row.
Yeah, so they won 3 in a row. Obviously, there's going to be a transition phase, and some teams don't deal with it as well as others. Risbon, in a similar vein, when they were on their streak, they beat Collingwood 2 times, and they also beat, was it Essendon?
Yep.
Yeah, and so they kind of fell off a little bit after their third premiership. They actually lost against Port Adelaide in another grand final. So I think all this talk of Clarko, he should go. I think that completely there is that talk out there, though.
One of the greatest coaches of all time.
Yeah, and you need to, especially when he's made those brave decisions to get Jaeger O'Meara in, to get Tom Mitchell in, to leave out Sam Mitchell and Jordan Lewis. He said he couldn't tell Sam Mitchell at the end of the season or at the end of another season after that it's your time to go. We need to get these young players going. I think that's a testament to the club's environment.
Oh, I think it's... I felt like Carlton's a prime example of, especially if you fail, you're gone. Ken Hinkley's under the pump, and he's only been put out. And people forget that he became coach in 2013, and Port Adelaide were the worst team in the AFL.
They were shocking.
Took them to 2 finals, almost took them to a grand final, had a few bad years. I just think AFL are too quick to jump on coaches.
Too impatient.
Which brings it to a next point, a club that's not impatient.
Ah, yes.
We're talking about the Collingwood Football Club. And the fact that they still haven't sacked Buckley, but he should be gone by the end of the year. It's safe to say.
Well, he's even said to himself that if they don't make finals, he'll quit. Like he won't go on as that coach if they don't make finals. And at the moment, the verdict certainly is there. Will they make the finals? I mean, they certainly have the talent.
Because of one key statistic. They are the worst team at kicking the ball inside 50. Their kicking skills are atrocious. As a supporter, I've been watching them, and they're doing the hard work. You watch them against the Bulldogs, they're tackling pressure, blah, blah, blah. But that's not all footy is. It's not about tackling. It's about keeping the ball and kicking it well. Okay, Hawthorn. In the past, I don't know about now.
For years, their kicking efficiency was well over 70%.
Yeah, but our kicking efficiency, do you remember the Sydney game in the first quarter? Our kicking efficiency was impeccable.
It was impeccable. You were hitting targets left, right,
Wayne Carey was like, if they kick like this all the time, like why are they playing like this one week and not the next? It's about being consistent. That comes back to the coach. What's he coaching the players to do? And at the moment, it's just not. You can't just rely on tackling. It's a big, and this has been an issue for years, and just to rely on Daniel Wells' addition to come in, 32-year-old, 31-year-old player.
You said a good point there, to come in. Like they picked up 4 players, and only Will Hoskin-Elliott played on the weekend. Maine's been a dud.
Oh, God, $500,000 for over 4 years.
Lyndon Dunn hasn't even played a game yet, and he's been perfectly healthy. Wells might not even get fit. And they got Will Hoskin-Elliott. My issue, actually, and I think this is a big one, he hasn't created a star. No. Like, look at when Ross Lyon came to Fremantle. The next year, Ryan Crowley won the best and first. He moved him to a tagging role and he became the best tagger in the AFL. And look at all the stars Alistair Clarkson creates. He's just a star machine. Who's been a star under Buckley? Who? Like Pendlebury was already a superstar.
Yeah.
Sidebottom was already a good player. Then you got Trelaw and Taylor Adams, who were already good players before they went to Collingwood.
That's a very good point. I wouldn't call him a star by any stretch, but one thing that Buckley has sparked is Jeremy Howe in the back line. He's been quite consistent, but in terms of a star, it's hard to look because a lot of it's been Mick Malthouse.
He certainly has. He's created, some incredible young players. Like Jared Blair played great roles there. You had still Sidebottom. You had this amazing midfield that amassed the disposals.
You would think, if Nathan Buckley had that talent to, really nurture young players, like you'd think James H would be in the team.
You'd think so.
Coming across from Brisbane,
early draft pick as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rising star.
Barely gets a game.
He's in the VFL.
Jesse White's been an absolute dud.
Yep, he's been
But at least he shaved off that man bun. That is the biggest positive about Jesse White.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Another player we're waiting on as well, and I think you'd agree with this as well, Jonathan, is probably Darcy Moore.
Yes.
He's been at the club, and I couldn't believe this, 6 seasons.
Has he?
Not 6, but he's like 4th, 3rd season maybe.
4th, 3rd season. It's been long enough, I think, and it's the same with players like Joe Danaher from Essendon as well. People do getting quite impatient with these players, but they are showing a lot of potential. And Darcy Moore has kicked a couple of bags in the past, but he just needs to put in more consistent performances.
Yeah, and I think a bit of it's about the delivery, as well inside 50. If you're the last team in the competition for kicking the ball inside 50, then it's hard for Moore to really get his hands on it. But when he has had his opportunities, he hasn't quite taken them.
Yep.
He is young, but the potential's already there. So it's just about him, coming of age, really.
That's absolutely right.
I'll ask you guys, will Buckley coach until the end of the year? Because they've got Essendon and I think GWS and Carlton. They could lose all 3. It's not the start you want. It's not ideal.
I think he'll be there at the end of the season, but 2018, I don't think he'll be there.
Yeah, I think there's this thing where Buckley's a legend of the Collingwood Football Club as a player. It's similar to James Hird, isn't it? Where, Essendon...
Don't you love James
Because
Hird?
there's such that sentiment and love and devotion towards these players that sometimes...
He's like a needle to them, you know what I mean?
But there's a difference between a player and a coach, and I think that's what we're finding out. Michael Voss didn't make that transition well.
I think Michael Voss was, out of the big 3, Voss was probably the best coach. The fact that Brisbane wanted Paul Roos was the main reason why he was sacked. Which could be the reason why Buckley's sacked, because apparently Paul Roos is the favourite.
Yeah. Look at the list management, though, at Michael. I agree with Michael Voss. What he did there was good, but Favola, though, was that a wise pick?
Oh, he thought they were ready for a premiership. He traded for that.
He's a little bit guilty of that. Yeah.
He certainly is.
But then he tried to rebuild the club, and I think he did an okay job.
He did, yes.
My favourite thing, this makes me happy. Whenever you feel down, just remember that Nathan Buckley left the Brisbane Bears because he wanted to win a premiership. Because he wanted to win a premiership. And who did he lose 2 grand finals against?
That's right, the Brisbane Lions.
I just think that makes me happy.
It's incredible when you turn a bear into a lion, what things can do. It's unbelievable.
That makes me happy. I go to sleep at night smiling every time I think of that.
Yeah.
So I can't wait for Gold Coast to beat Hawthorn in the grand final.
A lot of people forget that he was at the Brisbane Bears.
I wonder if the same thing will happen to Trelaw when GWS. I mean, because Brisbane had that young team. I read Nathan Buckley's biography, All I Can Be, and he talked about that he knew Brisbane had a good team, but he wanted to go to a big club. And Adam Trelaw, as said, I think Collingwood's list is better than Richmond's, and then Richmond beat Collingwood this season.
1-4 zip.
And whenever he got the ball, he was heavily booed as well.
Yeah.
And we'll go for another thing. Probably our last thing about AFL is Good Friday footy.
Good Friday footy. Was it good? Was it good?
I come straight out and say I'm not religious, so it doesn't bother me at all. But my stepdad isn't religious as well, and he said it shouldn't be.
Why is that? What's the view there?
It's just a holiday. It's a holiday that never didn't have footy and now it has footy.
When I've read up about it, Good Friday is probably the most sacred day, I think, out of both Christmas and Easter Sunday and all of those big holidays. It seems to be the most sacred day, particularly on the religious calendar. And I think the biggest problem that a lot of people are having with this Good Friday football is it's becoming very much commercialised, and so that sacredness of having that one day where there is no footy, you have some reflection, you have some time with your family. For those people who are religious, they can go to church, they can they can do obviously all their rituals and stuff during that time, and then it's back to business again. It's back to the footy. We all get back with all of our families and stuff like that. So that's the only problem I see. Look, I'm not overly religious as well, but looking at this issue from a different point of view, I know a lot of people are quite offended with the fact that there is a game on, and it's great for the Good Friday appeal. I think the Good Friday appeal raised almost 18,000, $605,662 if you don't mind.
Well, that's something huge,
terrific,
record breaking.
And I think like what you were just saying, Michael, about religious people can kind of do their own thing while footy fans can do their own thing in watching footy.
That's right.
Maybe there is a place for Good Friday football, but you never know.
Well, I got here you got the first game at the Etihad Stadium, which was 42,814.
So a very good crowd.
Especially for North Melbourne, the whole 2 supporters were there. Go North. Doggies won in the close game by 3 points with Lindsay Thomas, who's a fantastic player, by the way. I love Lindsay Thomas. Missed the goal on the siren.
He did. Well, he actually had 2 opportunities.
He did, and surprisingly didn't play for a free kick.
Yeah.
He didn't play for a free kick, surprisingly.
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't duck after he kicked the ball, to be honest.
But I think to myself, and it's like every tradition, 1 year's not enough to see if it's a success.
No, they need to trial the exact same teams next year. And I remember when Anzac Day was heavily criticised when it first happened, when Kevin Sheedy was the major pioneer for that. And I think the very first Anzac Day match was a draw. And so this incredible rivalry began between these two clubs. It's always been there in history between Essendon and Collingwood, but I think what the Anzac Day clash has done is it's turned a sacred day, because Anzac Day is a very sacred day, but the whole lead up with the dawn service, the march to the G,
and then the march,
and then the march from there to and then around the Oval as well. What they've created a new part of culture, and what it's actually done is it's probably made Anzac Day more significant to those people who probably don't know too much about it. And there's still that moment of silence, which still gives me goosebumps today.
When you hear the last post,
and it's one of the most. I think it's one of the most beautiful moments.
Anzac Day game from Essendon Collingwood, and just standing up there when the last post plays, even at home, it's just. And it's the biggest game apart from the grand final.
I think so.
You could hear a pin drop. Like there's not over 90,000.
90,000 people
and
quiet, silent.
Silent. I mean, I'd imagine that's quite an experience.
Do you guys remember at school, especially I remember say when you had to have a minute's silence? And there's always those stupid kids laughing.
Yeah.
You don't hear any of that. You just hear quiet. And then you hear, go to the Bombers, and then you hear Boba Pie trying to do it with no teeth, like a true Collingwood supporter. Go Pies.
Yeah, the roar afterwards is just it's spine tingling, and I think what Anzac Day was criticised. We obviously were very, very young when Anzac Day came out. We probably weren't even around actually thinking about it. But it's had so much success. They've enshrined a tradition, and hopefully with Good Friday football, it can be significant enough to now create a new kind of culture around it.
And it
as
has
well.
to be the two. It has to be Doggies and North Melbourne.
I think so. You've got to troll these teams, and regardless where Essendon and Collingwood are on the ladder, it's always a great clash.
Well,
and it's never going to lose its significance.
Next Monday's Richmond versus Melbourne, which is a very not spoke about tradition, but now it's the day before Anzac Day clash between Melbourne and Richmond,
which I actually think works. I think it's they light up the They have the massive flame there, and they have it in the MCG, which is great. And they turn all the lights off, and it's actually really well done. I think whoever came up with the concept has done a great job.
The one thing I want to see is a tradition between two interstate clubs, like a Sydney and Gold Coast have like a special game or something like that.
I think the match in China could
which may not be in China.
Which may not be in China now, but something along those lines would be great. And I suppose rivalries, like the Easter Monday clash, Hawthorn, Geelong, they're hostile rivals ever since the 1989 grand final. It's been great. Yeah. But we're talking about a newer kind of rivalry.
And Sydney West Coast don't count. Even now, every time Sydney West Coast play, they mention the 05 and 06 rivalry, which has no bearing on it. Like Geelong
it lasted for a small period of time.
Geelong and Hawthorn's had good games ever since the 08 grand final.
Saints and the Doggies had a good rivalry there as well.
Yeah.
But so you're saying that there should be a new rivalry between two interstate clubs that's kind of... Do you think it should be selected at random, or do you think two clubs should pitch their case forward and have the opportunity to do something a little bit special?
I don't know, just maybe they pick a day, just say, what's a good holiday? Just a random holiday.
Yeah. Labor Day.
Yeah, Labor Day.
Yeah, true.
But Labor Day, and they have Sydney versus Port Adelaide, and every year it goes from Adelaide Oval to the Sydney SCG. It's just that's what I want.
Yeah, I think it's important to introduce like the culture of the holiday into the game, and I think if you do that, that actually promotes, whether it's Anzac Day, and I think that's the most important thing.
The last thing before we go to song, have you seen the AFL Evolution trailer which dropped on Friday?
Oh my god, I'm so getting that game. It wasn't
exciting.
It wasn't amazing.
Looks terrible.
But there's always that debate. Should EA take over the game? And if EA did, that would be the perfect game.
Financially,
they can't.
But of course, I'm going to get it. I was playing AFL Live yesterday with my brother.
AFL Live's great.
I think it looks good for
nostalgic.
That's what people don't get. Like most of the comments saying how bad the graphics are, but people don't understand it's an Australian-based company with probably $5 budget.
Yeah.
2K, 2K. NBA looks great because they have the budget. My issue was actually with AFL games, and I've got a mate who does programming. He does the code for games.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and I go, what they stuffed up with AFL Live 1 to AFL Live 2, you get a platform like FIFA. They've had the same platform for years, and they just every year they add a new detail. It's so easy to change a player. It's so easy to change the colour of a ball. You just go move that player to that team. It's quite easy. They stuffed up. They went from AFL Live 1, which I think was probably my favourite AFL game.
It's great.
Yeah.
Some things looked off. And then went AFL Live 2, which was the Nintendo Wii version. Like, you had a player by himself mark and dive, and it's so silly. They should have just had to stick with the same platform, and never you just add a touch, add a simple thing. And by the time 2017 came around, it would have looked so much better than this game does. Hopefully they learn, keep the same platform, and it'll take them a couple of weeks just to build up to a new game. And that's it.
Yeah, I see Michael's watching the
I've got one criticism. One of the very first things you see is the Western Bulldogs banner. No writing on it. There's no slogan. The Bulldogs prime themselves. Danny McGinlay does an incredible job every week at writing the banners.
I love the Pokemon this weekend.
And he has not put... They haven't put it on.
Something I find silly about this, they got Easton Wood right as the captain. They did not get Karen Jack right as the captain. How hard is it to be like, oh, wait, no, Jared McVeigh wasn't the captain of the grand final, it was Karen Jack. Come on, EA. Not EA, come on, Wicked Witch. Put your stuff together.